Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to TC Timber Art. I am Nick, and today I'm going to show you how I'm going to take this chunk of walnut and turn it into a business card holder with a pen fountain. Should be pretty cool, so stay tuned and check out how I make it. Alright guys, so what I've done is it had a big knot on one side, so I cut this piece off clean so that this one doesn't have a knot to deal with. And then I'm going to rip this piece to size, and I want to get two pieces to use as a business card holder. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm taking some maple and some red heart wood, and I'm actually going to be laying out the spot where the pillars will go that will hold the cards in place. Just making sure that I'm marking each one of these evenly, and I'm going to be drilling a dowel hole in the center of each one of these marks. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to be cutting the dowels that we just drilled the holes for in the walnut base. I'm going to cut them to the correct size. So what I'm doing here is adjusting my flip stop on the miter gauge to cut the maple into the correct size for the pillars that we're going to use. As you see here, I've marked center in these pieces, and I'm going to drill the holes for the dowels. Now, with the pillars cut the dowel holes drilled, I'm going to lay out where the pen funnel will go and mark the center hole on the front and back. And I'm also going to mark the depth of the hole that I'll need for the screw to hold the pen funnel. Well, I just had an idea, and what we're going to do is take this piece of Paduk, and I'm going to take some measurements and lay out some lines, and we're going to cut some dados into the bottom of this piece of walnut. Just taking a moment to think about things and have a quick coffee break. What I'm doing here is zeroing out my digital angle gauge and making sure my saw blade is at a 90-degree angle. And then I'm also taking my digital height gauge and setting it to the correct height for what we're going to cut our dados at. Notice in this clip I've got a bandage on my finger that wasn't there before. Keep your fingers out of the way of the chisels, folks. Okay, what I'm doing now is adjusting the angle of my blade and also adjusting the position of my miter gauge so that I don't cut into it. But what we're going to do is make a series of chamfer cuts onto this block of walnut to add a little bit of shape and style to it. So I didn't notice at the time when I was cutting my angles that my miter gauge was actually slightly off. It just user error, and I hadn't locked it down completely. So I'm using the block plane and some chisels to try to even out these angles and make it a little more uniform. A quick trip to the router table to add a small chamfer to the top edge. And you remember the Paduk that we cut the dados for? Well, here we're going to cut it into strips, and you can watch me fidget around with my featherboard that didn't want to stay in place. So I did this off camera, but you can see here, this is where the card holder is going to sit in those dados that I cut earlier, and then I just shaped out little feet. I took a series of measurements and shaped out little feet. You can see this was the first one. I know where my lines are, so it's not a big deal, but just used a French curve template and just tried to add some design and flow to it. Next up is to cut the legs to shape. Since I don't have a bandsaw, I'm cutting them on the scroll saw with a good hardwood blade, and then there'll be a fair amount of sanding to follow this. Now it's time to lay out, measure, and cut the red heart strips, and those will be glued onto the sides of our maple pillars. And altogether, that's what's going to hold our business cards. Alright, now that we have everything glued up, the glue is dry, now it's time to clean up the edges here with a chisel and do one more final sand all the way around, and then I'll be ready to spray some finish and then put the pen funnel. It goes right there. This guy will sit right there. We'll have a nice little business card holder and a pen stand. Alright, the only thing left to do, it's got a little bit of a wobble. So what I'm going to do is take some 150 sandpaper, tape it down flat, and just try to flatten out the feet a little bit. Take the wobble out of it. Alright guys, got the feet flat now. Took the wobble out of it so they sit nice and flush on the surface. So the next step is to just wipe it off with mineral spirits to get the sanding dust and stuff out of the small cracks. I'm also going to hit it with some air from my air compressor just to blow it off as well. Then I'm going to spray some lacquer. I'll put a few good coats on there to seal it and protect it. It's a satin, so it won't be too shiny. And then once that's dry, we're going to attach the pen funnel right there, and we'll be done. We'll have a very unique, stylish, 4-species wood business card holder with a pen stand. Alright, now that the finish is on, the last step is to attach the pen funnel. We'll flip it upside down, put our screw in. A little tricky getting it in the hole. And that is it, boys and girls. Fancy little business card holder with a pen funnel. you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel for more projects.